Horizon Jansson vs. Reaction, and this is Catherine the Great Succession Extra History Part 6. Channel Extra Credits. Yeah, this is the 6th part of the Catherine the Great series by Extra Credits. It's been fun so far. From the start, it's been a surprising story. Obviously I always see any of the historical events and stories that I always take that as it's not going to be that interesting. But I get surprised a lot, like how interesting these stories are. Catherine's childhood, basically she was neglected, and then she, I guess, found herself to be the next empress of Russia. That is just surprising how she was neglected by her mother whole life, and then when she got married just for an escape, she got married in a way and then used her smarts in a political way to become empress of Russia. So far she's been a great empress. Basically all the things she's done, the wars and shit. Yeah, so it was fun. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. Check out the reaction, there's a link in the description. Check out the cast with the different playlists like history with all my historical videos, other playlists too like Oli Sarcastic Production, Oversimplified, Internet Historian, Tier Zoo, and yeah, let's go this one.
Once the terror of Eastern Europe, Poland had long been in decline. Catherine aimed to make that decline permanent.
Yeah, I saw the Poland video from Oli Sarcastic Production, the history version of it, and I was surprised to learn that Polish Empire was a kind of a strong empire in the past. But in the recent history of past few centuries, Poland has always been this, I guess, kicking ball for everybody in Europe. Everybody just kick on Poland basically, always raging wars and doing atrocities or whatever.
When Catherine first made war on the Ottomans, the biggest losses ended up being suffered by the Poles rather than the Ottoman Empire. For years, Catherine had a puppet, a former lover, on the throne of Poland, but keeping him there, and keeping him doing the bidding of Russia, was becoming more and more difficult. Vast amounts of troops and treasure were required to keep Poland passive, and, as you might remember, the first Russo-Ottoman conflict was, at least officially, caused by Russian troops chasing Polish rebels over the border into Ottoman territory. But Poland was at the center of everything. Literally. The three great powers in Eastern Europe at the time were Prussia, Austria...
Look at how small Prussia is, man, with the Poland being there. Obviously, Poland is not going to be there, because I reacted to the about Otto von Bismarck video in which, Prussia was gigantic, so was Austria, so I guess they just consumed Poland, and so did Russia, I guess.
And Russia. And in the middle of all of them sat Poland. So Poland became the solution for a very thorny problem that faced the King of Prussia, Frederick the Great. You see, Frederick had agreed to a secret alliance with Catherine, but the terms of it were very specific. If either of them fought with one of the other powers, all the other had to do was provide some financial support. But if either was attacked and ended up fighting two powers, well, the other one had to go all in joining their side. Now, Frederick really didn't like the idea of...
Damn, that's a sweet deal for Catherine, I guess, because obviously Poland's hers, because Poland's king is her puppet. Now she has this sweet deal with Prussia. Basically, that makes Prussia Russia's great ally. So what left now? Only Ottoman Empire and Austria. Ottoman Empire is already in decline massively, so only Austria is left. So Russia was in great position during this time
of actually militarily supporting Russia. He wanted them on his side and all, but the 7 Years' War had really done a number on his forces and his treasury. And in the Ottoman conflict, Russia was being a true pain and stomping the Turks far more than anybody really thought they would, which of course worried Austria, who needed the Ottomans as a counterbalance to Russia.
Yeah.
Naturally, this meant that the Austrians were about to join the war on the Ottoman side, which...
Of course they would. If Ottomans gets crushed, Prussia's already ally of Russia, Poland is already Russia's, Austria's fucked at that point.
Would mean that Frederick would have to do the very boring and unfun act of honoring his treaty. But Frederick was a crafty fellow. He pondered the problem and did what he seems to have usually done, and asked himself, how can I kill a whole bunch of birds with one stone? Because he really wanted a couple of things. First, he didn't want to have to send troops to fight some Russian war. Second, he wanted the Ottomans to owe him, in case he ever needed to use them against the Austrians or...
It's not just about him, is it? If he constantly sends troops to fight Russia's war constantly against Ottoman, regardless of what treaty was signed or if he has to honor it or not, people will see this one thing. Like Prussia has become Russia's puppet, and Prussia is constantly intervening in Russia's war and constantly helping them and losing soldiers. So if anything, that would cause some kind of revolution. The kings would be in, I guess, Prussia's king would be in some kind of a danger. So I guess he can't just go there and honor the treaty, because that just feels weird, since Russia is constantly attacking Ottomans over and over again.
For the Russians. And then there was this thorny issue of that big gap in his territory, making it much harder to defend. So
What?
he proposed a solution.
Hold up there.
In his
That's Poland's as well. Huh. Look, here's what I'm gonna say. I'm sad that every time Poland gets crushed, everybody just try to attack Poland. Poland has just become a free real estate, I guess, for Europe's power. But look at how big Poland is. Compared to Austria and Prussia is nothing compared to that in size. Russia is always wants more territory, more, I guess, Western European territories, I guess. So obviously, if you have this much land and if you're not powerful enough, people are going to consume you, which actually happened. So I guess if you want to be this big in the center of Europe where the massive powers reside, you have to be powerful, otherwise you're screwed, which happened.
Territory, making it much harder to defend. So he proposed a solution. Rather than Russia continuing to kick the Turks around and taking large portions of their territory, what if they took a big piece of Poland instead? And then, to maintain the balance of power, Austria could go in and take the most populous parts of Poland, and he would just take this wee bitty bit over there, a bit that happened to be the most strategically important for him and provided him more ports on the Baltic. So his solution was proposed, and basically everybody was like, sure, that works. And so, with plenty of urging from the surrounding...
It's a free real estate. Everybody has something, apart from Poland, obviously.
Russian soldiers, they got Catherine's puppet in Poland to call the Polish version of a parliament to ratify the agreement. Of course, not enough members showed up to actually ratify the thing, but that wouldn't be a problem. The first thing those who did show up decided to do was change the rules, and thus huge segments of Poland became Russian, Austrian, and Prussian overnight. From then on, anytime Poland did anything Russia didn't like, Russia would just send the troops in. Then Prussia would suggest that they all just take another bite out of Poland, until finally, near the end of Catherine's rule, everyone just agreed to do away with the nuisance that was the ever-in-revolt state of Poland. But as Catherine's life came to its close...
What the fuck, man? I'm sorry, I just can't. Of all the historical event happened in the past, people try to take other empires' places and take land. I've seen that, but this is, I don't know why, it just feels weird, isn't it? Process like, I don't want to honor that treaty. I don't want to fight Ottomans. Screw it. Poland's king is Russia's puppet. Russia, I want some of the Poland's territory. Austria would like some territory too. I guess Russia would like it too. Everybody wins except Poland. Screw Poland. Let's take it. Once they took it, we took it last time, so why not again and again and again, and Poland ceased to exist? That's just effed up, man.
And the last chapter in the reign of Catherine the Great was being penned. All thoughts were on one thing: the succession. And here, perhaps, for all of Catherine's triumphs, was her greatest failing, the place where her own weaknesses and insecurities show through. The tragedy of her reign was that she left behind no one to carry on her legacy. After her, Russia would never again have a truly great emperor. Her son would grow up to be like the husband Catherine had despised. When he was born, little Paul had been whisked away by the then Empress Elizabeth.
This is funny. The way they are the anniversary is the way they are taking poses, like they're taking a photo. So she was about to take a photo, like, take a photo with my kid. And the then Empress just snatched the kid, like, now that's my kid, and take the photo.
For 8 years, Elizabeth had had maids and servants raise the boy, and when he was at last returned to Catherine, there was a distance between them that could never...
Alright, first of all, why take the kid from the mother if you're not going to raise him yourself? Understand, you're an empress, you can't. Then don't take the kid from the mother. You had a servant, take care of him, and that's how he grew up. That's just effed up. He grew up without his mother and anything. That's just...
never be bridged. The young man expected the warmth and attention that he'd never received during those years apart from his mother, and while Catherine tried, Paul would always be jealous of the men in Catherine's life, as she seemed to focus more of her energy on them than on him. And this was compounded by Catherine's own paranoia. She saw her son not as an assistant and an heir, but as a potential rival, as the one person who might have a more legitimate claim to the throne than she. So she kept him away from the halls of government, away from any responsibility, from being an actor in the affairs of state. And slowly, he took to idolizing the father who might not have been his father. He would play with soldiers and...
So let me get. No, I didn't expect from Catherine of all people to do this. She was treated horribly during her childhood by her mother. Obviously, she wasn't like that here. Obviously, she loved her son, but she obviously kept him at somewhat distance. That's why he started to resent all the men in Catherine's life, because Catherine wasn't giving enough attention to him, because she didn't see him as the son, the heir. She saw him as a rival. I mean, I thought there would be some psychological scars from the past, in her, that how her mother treated, her. So she would be more better here. She would take care of her kid more. Won't think of him as rival or anything. And how is he rival again? Just because he's, I guess, man rather than female? Was that the issue at that time too? Because she is the empress, that's the son. Until she dies or abdicate, how can he become the next czar or emperor or whatever? So how was he rival? I don't understand that. But seriously, I didn't see this coming. I thought she would not do the same thing her mother did. Obviously, she didn't do all the things her mother did. She didn't resented him, but she kept him at a hand's length, or whatever how you call it.
March his servants around like Peter had. Catherine and her closest advisors eventually decided this had to stop, and so they sought a wife for him, hoping that being married might make him grow up. But his first marriage ended in deep tragedy. His wife died in the birth of their first son, and their son died with her. And as he was going through her papers, Paul discovered that she'd been carrying on an affair with his closest friend. He was laid low with grief. But he was convinced to marry again for the sake of the state. His new wife was perfect for him. She supported him, eased his anxiety. Together they toured Europe, where for the first time he was feted and treated like a ruling member of some great state. And in these few months, you can see this possibility, this glimmer of hope in the letters the rulers of Europe wrote to one another upon meeting this young man, that he might be something more than his father. Was he perfect? Well, no, but they all remark on him being capable, intelligent.
What? See, this is why I don't like past times a lot. I always make reference to this. People say if I had time, must go to this time and that time. Look at this. People are judging him based on his father. Like he might be, because he's his father's son, he might just be like him. And then they're surprised. Oh, wait a minute, he's somewhat competent. Not like his father. I mean, come on, man.
And when his wife was at his side, able to let go of the anxiety and the paranoia that plagued him. But when he returned from Europe and asked to be part of the cabinet, Catherine again dismissed him, telling him that his trip had made him put on airs. He asked to fight in the army, and she said no. On every front, she still kept him from having any of the responsibility of state. And so he sank back down into his anxiety and his paranoia. And as he grew older, rumors abounded that Catherine was going to disinherit him for one of his own sons. Now, whether she actually did or not is one of those historical questions. And as he grew older, rumors abounded that Catherine was going to disinherit him for one of his own sons. Now, whether she actually...
I misheard that, okay. Okay, why would she do that though? I mean, why not make your own son your next in line for the throne rather than your grandson?
Did or not is one of those historical questions that will never really have an answer. Some say that she left instructions in her...
She probably didn't. People just probably spread the rumor of it because how she was treating him so far. Man, I don't know. I feel really bad. I didn't see Catherine doing this since what she went through. This is really shitty of him. Of all the 6-part series, this is the one series where I feel like Catherine was really wrong.
Her will to pass the empire to her grandson, but that Paul had had that will destroyed before anyone could discover it. Others say that she died before she made up her mind on the issue. But Catherine, forgetting some of the pains of her own childhood, let her insecurities prevent her from giving her son the training or the care that he needed to rule. In the end, his paranoia became a self-fulfilling prophecy, and he would be assassinated not long into his reign. And the last days for Catherine saw other steps backward as well. The Pugachev rebellion had convinced her to step back from
Hold up there, who killed him again?
that he needed to rule. In the end, his paranoia became a self-fulfilling prophecy, and he would be assassinated not long into his reign. And the last days for Catherine saw other steps backward as well. The Pugachev rebellion had convinced her to step back from granting rights to the serfs, something that she had considered doing in her younger days. And now the French Revolution made her doubt all of the Enlightenment ideas that she had so loved, and that in some ways had helped her carry her country so far. She banned private printing presses, and made all works be approved by a censorship office. She even stopped the circulation of books by some of the very men she had.
What? This is a tragic story. What the fuck? This is so not her. She treated her son same way her mother treated her. She was an enlightened person. That's what made her unique. Books and everything, knowledge, progressive ideas. And now she's going against all that in the end just by paranoia. I know age does things to you, but still.
Had corresponded with in her youth. And so, in the end, on the 17th of November, 1796, Catherine died of a stroke, leaving behind her a Russia that was larger, stronger, and more developed than ever before. She had championed health, maternal rights, and education. She had expanded the country on every border, from Poland to Georgia to Alaska. She patronized the arts, built great palaces and wonders like the Hermitage. Under her, the army had gone from a second-rate power scoffed at in the halls of Europe to something feared the world round. She issued the first Russian banknote and brought the Enlightenment to Russia. And though she began to step back from that Enlightenment and left Russia with a dynasty incapable of completing her legacy, it cannot be said that she was anything but the Great.
Yeah. Damn, that's the end of Catherine the Great's series. First 5 parts were just awesome. You know, how she grew up, that saddened me. But then she, walked her way into being the Empress of Russia. She was competent one. She brought lots of changes into the country that lasted for a long time. She expanded the country, then wars and everything. Her ideas were good too. Even though she was surrounded by blithering idiots, she tried to do a lot of things. But in the end, what she did to her son was just shitty. Knowing what she went through, I can't process that. I mean, it's like, if you get, burnt by something, I think you would be the first person to realize what is to be like. You would be the last person to burn anybody. I don't know if that makes sense or not. So, she went through that. I thought she would be the last person to treat her son, like that. But damn, that's just effed up. Her son basically grew up with all the insecurity, probably a feel of worthlessness. And in the end, he was assassinated as well. Probably because he was not as strong as he could have been if she let him in and, teach him a thing or two. Maybe he would have been stronger. Maybe he wouldn't been so easily assassinated like he was. So his life got fucked up. Then in the end, she just gave up on all of her ideas, which is really anti-her. The way she was throughout her life, that was not the version she was in the end, which is tragic. But in the end, she left a legacy which kind of changed the Russia forever, changed Poland forever, because she, Prussia, Austria basically, I guess, sucked Poland in. And I guess Prussia is kind of understandable. Prussia was really small, so they're like, if Poland can defend themselves, I'm going to take it. So I guess at the Poland part, I realized that if you're going to be center of all the European powers and be that big, you have to defend yourself. Otherwise, people will do what happened, I guess. All right. That was Catherine the Great Succession Extra History Part 6. Should I do the lies video? I don't know. People talk about should do lies video. Is that worth it or not? I don't know. Comment down if you want to do the lies video. Right, people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction I did. There's a link in the description with all of my videos. Not everything has playlist, so check out the link in the description. Check out the cast of the playlists like history, all of my historical videos. Oli Sarcastic Production, great channel with mythological stuff and history stuff. I love reacting to that. So check that out. Check out historian reaction, CGP Grey reaction, or simplified reaction. And I guess I'll see you next time. And which new video or series you want me to do from Extra Credits tomorrow? I guess comment down that as well. And I'll see you next time.